First of all, I'd like to welcome everybody back to the first four-piece Café post our summer break. I hope everybody had a good summer. You're able to rewatch all the sessions that Sam has been sharing on social media to fill your time. And now we're getting started again. So from now on, every week, back on Thursday afternoons, there should be a four-piece Café about some subject. And we're starting off really strong with a guest speaker. Joel from Creative Edge will tell us about iC3D. It's going to be a demo of the full application with a bit of focus on the new features. I'd like to make you aware this is the first iC3D webinar out of a series of 3. We'll have one every second week. So 2 weeks from now on the 16th, we're going to be talking about shrink sleeves. And 2 weeks later on the 30th of September, it will be about automation. So if you're interested in the application, if you liked this session, please subscribe to the other 2 as well. So you get the full package. Of course, everything is recorded and will be placed on YouTube, so you can rewatch it later as well. Okay, so that's about it for the introduction. As usual, this is a cafe. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to type in chat if you have something to say that we want to share with the group. I'll be keeping an eye on chat, so I'll see your messages. Yeah, I'll give the words to Joel and we'll see how it goes today.
Okay, thank you. Hi, good afternoon from wherever you're located. My name is Joel Weiner. I'm the Product Support Manager for Creative Edge Software and specifically iC3D. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit, a little introduction on what iC3D is and what it's about. And then I'm going to dive in with a live demonstration showing you all the main features of the tool, followed by right at the end, I'm going to show you some new features and templates that we've got coming out within the next couple of weeks on our next major release. Okay, so just to kind of set the scene about visualization and 3D rendering software market, just in time marketing, advertising and cost reduction are driving the visualization and 3D rendering software market. Basically 3D delivers a visual effect that generates a perception of depth for the viewers and gives them an enriched experience of the 3D model that they see or image that they're seeing. The 3D rendering software market is expected to grow. Originally, this is a line going back from 2017, but still is valid. They expect it to grow from 1.6 billion to 2.92 billion by 2022. So photorealistic 3D rendering software helps during the stages of prototyping, as it does for the design stage, as well as other stakeholders within the project, to see a realistic picture of how their design will actually turn out. And this is where iC3D actually comes into its own, just by kind of looking at that last bullet point there. So what is iC3D? Well, iC3D is the first real-time all-in-one packaging design solution that enables you to generate hyper-realistic packaging mock-ups on the fly, and that includes any packaging item that you can think of, which includes cartons, labels, flexibles, bottles, tins, point-of-sale items, shrink wraps on shelving, and in-store product visualization. So basically, pretty much most of everything you see on the image here on my screen, as well as more, can be generated and created from a packaging focal point using iC3D. Okay, so just to show you kind of where we sit in the packaging supply chain, end to end, as you can see, these are some of our customers that have iC3D installed on their premises at various different locations across the globe, whether it's from a CPG brand owner, design services, trade services and pre-press, up to packaging, labeling, printers, converters, and co-packers or brand owners right at the end of the supply value chain. And as you can see, some of our large customers like Diageo are right at the forefront, using this for ideation, designing their latest bottles, their latest structural designs of those bottles, as well as boxes and all sorts of things. Right up the other end, where we have co-packers and brand owners like Astor Chocolate, Wise Foods in America. Lots of different use cases along the packaging supply chain for our product. So finished iC3D print ready images, there's no specific skills needed to do this. You can quickly and easily create any 3D models, bottles, bags, cartons, and more. Basically, all the little images that you see popping up on my screen now have all been created directly within iC3D. No extra applications needed. The final imagery that you see as well has been exported directly from those models that have been built within iC3D, okay? So there's a black art that 3D is a very hard subject point to learn and to create 3D models. With iC3D, we make this extremely easy, and it was designed with traditional 2D operators in mind to move into the 3D mindset very quickly and easily. I myself come from a traditional production 2D background in packaging and moved into the 3D space with tools like iC3D very quickly and easily without too much training. You can be building things like you see on your screen within a couple of days training, very easy. Especially things like bottles and jars can be built in a couple of hours after a couple of hours training. So you can get beautiful photorealistic 3D and print ready images. Any packaging designer can learn iC3D, as I said, in just a couple of days. 3D photorealistic visuals are becoming the norm in the marketplace for lots of use cases, especially within the retail market space, online retail, that kind of thing. And it's especially enhances imagery and makes realistic photos for things like spirits, glass, liquids, and foils, and they all look amazing. And hopefully you'll agree with me during the demo when you see some of this stuff live. Okay. So that just sets the stage for iC3D. And I'll just dive in here and we'll start with showing you some of the main features of the application. So the image that you see on my screen here, I'll just switch the viewpoints out. So what you'll see in the middle here is what we call a ray traced image, a photographically correct image of the OpenGL model that you see in the bottom left-hand corner. When I say OpenGL, that is more, if you can think of it like computer gaming quality technology, like on an Xbox, PlayStation, compared to the photographic quality and reality that we can achieve in the middle here. Okay, so iC3D is an out-of-the-box solution that enables you to create these 3D digital packaging mockups while seamlessly integrating with 2D rendering tools like Adobe Illustrator, always keeping the production file in mind. So I'm just going to crudely show you this by changing the color very quickly on the label that you saw on that bottle, or I hope you saw on your screen a moment ago, and I'll go back to that and in real time show you how our real-time ray tracing technology works. So I've literally changed the color of that label, as you see now popped up in the bottom left, and within a couple of seconds I can see exactly what that looks like as my photographic quality image of that same model using our real-time ray tracing technology. Okay, so as a starting point, I'm going to build this whole scene back to you from start to finish just to show you some of the features of the tool. So I'm going to start with a fresh new page or document if you like. I'm going to switch my viewpoint to OpenGL for construction purposes, just to make this a little bit easier for you guys to digest. So I'm going to start with that background image that you saw. So we have a feature called dynamic backgrounds. This enables me to add any kind of background image, and this can be something that you've got off a stock image website, or you've taken with your iPhone or professional photography. We can drop those images directly in the background of your 3D model. You can merge the 2D image with the 3D model in place for creating some very nice marketing shots or something like this, perhaps, or to see it maybe on a shelf or something like this, to see it in the actual environment it should be seen in, maybe on a shelf. We also have camera calibration tools in here. I'm not going to go through them now, but just to explain, when you badly see a model or an image of a product that's been badly photoshopped into a background, you'll see the perspective isn't right. We have automatic calibration to do that with the model from taking the perspective points of the image. We can also generate a 360 lighting rig from that image as well, very quickly. I won't do that now, it takes a minute just to process. But it means that you will have further reality by using the lighting directly from that background image we're putting in here. So I'm just going to call this barrels. Save that to my background. Okay. And that will place it in the background of my scene, as you can see there. Next, I'm going to use our template library. Now, our template libraries are what we call editable 3D models. And that's true in most sense, especially when we're talking about flexibles. I'll just drag one into the scene to show you. They're pretty much a standard model and you just manipulate them with the size and height and things. And we'll go through this in more detail later. The other templates that we have, which are a 2D spinner, the card and fold up template that you see here at the top, and also the shape modeler template, which I'm going to use now to build my model from. They're all based on CAD data that we would import. In this case, this is our niche modeling capability. It's basically a shape stacker, if you can imagine it like that. So effectively, to build a model, we just get two shapes like this cog, and you stack them on top. You look at the object from an overhead view. You see what shapes that it's made from the overhead view, and then you stack them in the shape modeler here to create your 3D model, as you can see there that I've done very quickly. So I'm going to build the bottle that you saw in the scene, and to make it easier, obviously, we can add a background image in here very quickly of the final product, or if you have a CAD drawing for the CAD data, you can also add that in the background. You can scale it up to the size that you need it. So I'll just quickly go in here and do that. And then 98.71, and that scales it to the actual height and reality that I need this bottle to be. This is how we know that we can create things very accurately to reality as well. If you do have, obviously I'm just going to be tracing around this image. If you do have the CAD data, you can use the X, Y, width and depth coordinates across the top here to accurately create that model from in real time, as I'm going to do here. I'm just going to put this into non-smooth mode, which means it's easier for me for modeling, or speedier anyway, and I will smooth it at the end. But I'm just going to add some of these shapes in here. It's pretty much an elliptical bottle. So two shapes this is created from, an elliptical shape and also a circular shape at the top there. So I'm just going to add another couple of these on my artboard inside here, and then we can grab these ones at the top here as well. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in. I can always zoom in, get a better viewpoint. Probably want another one of these shapes at this point. And then I can start dragging that around into position very quickly and easily. Very complex looking 3D shape, but very easy to produce. We can add curved edges, just drag these little nodes and add curved edge points at any moment that we wish. Okay, and then I'm just going to scroll up, kind of finish off this guy at the top here. Add another curved edge over at this point. And then I just want another couple of circular shapes to build the stem of the neck of the bottle. So I'm just going to drag one down to here. Add another one in at this point. Just scale it into where I need it. Probably want one more up the top here, just to give me that little ridge, if you like. And the last one just comes around about this point here. Okay, so that's pretty much my bottle created, the one that you saw at the start. I'm just going to smooth that out, make it nice and smooth, and there's our finished bottle. Okay, next thing I want to do is just to add this to my scene, and once I do that, I can then start manipulating it further. So once I've built my structural file, we can then work on materials. Maybe I'll go in my material library. I can look for my bullet bourbon glass, which I've already pre-created. We do pre-ship with lots of different materials. There's things like glass, liquids, metals, plastics, printed cards, lots of different textures in there, lots of different things to choose from. You literally, as I did, just click and drag it onto the actual model to change at any point. So next I want to add my actual liquid inside the bottle that you saw as well, the actual whiskey in this case. So we have an interior and fill template to do that. You noticed I didn't have to model all the interior wall and everything. Well, why would I do that? I can let the computer do all that calculation and work for me. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add in a wall thickness, which is left to right, the thickness of the base of the actual bottle, whether it's contoured, flat, angled, curved. So I'm going to say it's going to follow the contours of the bottle and the radius corners on the side. And then I can apply my actual interior. Okay, so iC3D will automatically calculate that and add an interior wall for me in this case. And the reason why we need this is because obviously we need to calculate the correct levels of refraction and reflections needed to be able to let the light pass through the bottle and the liquid, and then to be able to then add our liquid inside for ray tracing. So as you can see there, now it's added a wall in there. It tells me the volumetric data, the maximum amount of liquid that can fit inside that bottle. Our customer Diageo requested this feature as part of their design process, so they know at all times how large these items are that they're designing and how much liquid they can fit inside them, etc. So I'm just going to come inside here and just grab my Bullet Bourbon whiskey material that I've already pre-created, and I'm going to add that inside here. And if you watch there, it will calculate the actual fill volume based on the fill point depth, which is the distance from the very top of the bottle to where I want the liquid to sit inside there. Okay, so that's just, again, it's going to model that piece automatically for me in a couple of seconds rather than me having to remodel that in that shape modeler and then adding it to the scene. Much quicker, much smarter way of working. So I'm going to add that to the scene. And there's our liquid and our bottle. Next, I'm going to create that embossed writing or text that you saw on the glass. So I'm going to select my glass bottle. I'm going to add a label to be able to do this. Now we use labels to hard encode embossed data, which I'm going to show you now, as like a stamp, if you like. So I'm going to add my label here. It's going to be 100 by 90. Okay, so that's 100% accurate to reality, the size of that label. Using our patented label sliding technology, I can physically slide that label anywhere I wish to. Okay, there are anchor tools that we can fix it in the natural location we want it, but it's because we don't UV map it to the actual 3D model itself. We can move it anywhere we wish. So I'm going to link that back to Illustrator. That will open up a 100% scale document in Illustrator of that label size that I've just generated. Okay, and then I'm just going to place in here an artwork file that has the elements of my embossed data that you saw on that glass bottle. So I'm just going to put that on here. I'm going to embed that. Now, just to let you guys know, this has to be actually set up as a spot color as it would be on your production file anyway. It's called bump. It could be called embossed or whatever you guys would call that in reality. I'm going to update that back to iC3D. Okay, and instantly I have that information rendered on that label. I'm going to come in here and add a material effect via that spot color that's in there. So this is directly linked to that Illustrator file. It's picking up on that bump spot color that I just showed you in the Illustrator file. I'll call that bump again. I'm just going to come in here and add a material. So that one will do, so we can really see the change. So that goes off to Illustrator in the background. You can see there, if you are left hanging, it tells you what it's doing. And then it will send a message in the bottom left-hand corner back to iC3D once it's done it. Okay. And then what you'll see in a second, just bear with me while I just repeat that. Sure. Let's try the orange one. Okay, so that will go off to Illustrator, look to everywhere that that spot color is being used, and then it will send that information back to iC3D and display it as my specified material. Sorry guys, I think my Illustrator's playing up today, so just bear with me. Always happens on these live things, but just let me just change that to something else. Okay, so now you see it's now decided to do that for me. Okay, so I now have that gold color on the front there. I'm just going to make it a bump depth. This is a traditional way of adding bump or embossed effects, but I want to actually hard encode into bottles data. So we have a very niche template for doing this called bump displacement. So I'm going to select that label. I'm now going to drag the bump displacement template into the scene. You see the bottle here. I could actually physically add that displacement to the label, or in this case, I want to add it to the bottle that's underneath. Okay, so directly on the bottle. So just to show you a city amount, I'm just going to push that out by 5 mil, just to show you the actual reality of how this works. So what I will do is it will give me an embossed effect. And what it's actually doing is hard encoding that into the model's data or the model's mesh. So when I turn it to the side, you can see those elements actually protruding out. If I do it in the first method that I showed you, it's just a graphical simulation, gives it a perception of depth. This actually allows you now to 3D print those embossed or debossed effects directly from iC3D using our 3D printer export options. So I'll do something a little bit more real world. So obviously we only want to push that out 1 millimeter. Obviously, if I put a negative value in here, that will be like a debossed effect, okay? So I'm going to add the mesh smoothness, the transition between the two, the effects and the original bottles mesh, and the edge smoothness, how sharp or how rounded these effects are. You see they're quite rounded at the moment. When I update this, you'll see it'll be obviously not such a high raised emboss. And also it'll be like a lot sharper edged, okay, as you see there. So I'm going to save that back to my model. Now I've done that, I can simply remove the effect and then simply remove the label from the bottle. I could physically drag that around to the other side and repeat that process on the back if I needed to, or just simply delete the bottle, the label off the bottle, or stamp as I like to call it. Okay, so now to kind of finish this little miniature demo up, I want to add a second label to the glass. All right, and this will contain all my graphical elements of my actual printed label. So this label is going to be 245 by 100 mil. Okay, which I'm going to add on here, and I'm going to link this back to Illustrator. Okay, so just link that back. Now it'll open up again, 100% scaled document for me, where I can then apply the artwork or pre-designed artwork, or indeed I can design live in real time as I build the file up. Okay, so I'm just going to open up my artwork file this time rather than placing it, become apparent why in a second. So when we send a label over to Illustrator, we provide two artwork layers automatically. I have one called artwork for obvious reasons to place the artwork on, and a second one here called cutout. Now you see this kind of serrated edge shape. I'll just zoom in, like obviously like an edge of a stamp, if you like. Any shaped filled element we put on this layer will perform a die cut operation out of that larger rectangular artboard that you see there, or label is what I actually placed on here. So I'm just going to copy and paste everything here and paste that across to my new label that we just had. Okay, so just paste that in, just nudge that across a bit, and when I update this back to iC3D, you will notice that it will perform that die cut operation for me in real time out of that larger label, as you see just happened there. Okay, I could drag that using now patented label sliding technology, or as I said to you earlier, we can accurately position things using the label settings here. So label alignment tools. I can say, well, left to right, I want it to be in this location, and top to bottom of that bottle minus, it's 0 at the top, so bottom will be 395. Okay, and it's in position. We also have a model library. The model library, we pre-ship with lots of different models to get you started. Maybe you don't want to build a beer bottle. Maybe you just want to see what your latest beer bottle design looks like on a standard beer bottle. You can drag one of these into the scene and add a label to it, as I have just done. Okay, so there's beer bottles, there's cosmetic items in here, there's jars and containers, party favors, if you like, to add things to drinks or whatever, spirit bottles, all sorts of things inside there, okay, to get you started. Obviously, you can also use this as an asset library as well. So I have all my bullet bottle assets. So I have a generic cork that always goes on my bullet bottle, no matter what the variation or flavor is or variant is. I also have a sealed shrink film that goes across the bottle and the cap. I can drag that in, and I also have a glass that maybe I want to create this marketing shot with that I can drag in there. I can then add a preset camera angle. We have all the GS1 standards in here, as you'll see here as I'm just scrolling down, but I've got one specifically for my actual bullet bottle inside here, which I'm going to just grab, put it into position for me. And then I have a lighting rig here specifically created for this project. Okay. So as you can see, that was generated off of that dynamic backgrounds piece that I showed you earlier. It's just had a couple of highlights added to it for extra effect. So I'm going to switch my viewpoints out, and then we can see what that looks like as a fully ray traced image. So that's the image that I had up on my screen to start, and shows you how that can be created from start to finish. Okay. So next, I'm going to show you our shrink tools. We have very comprehensive shrink tools and pre-distortion tools for shrink artworking. And I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm going to start with a can, a single can. I'm going to create a multi-pack of that can. So I'm going to drag my single iced tea can in here. I'm going to use our shrink film template to then apply the shrink film around the single can. Now we can wrap things either vertically or horizontally, depending on what is the correct direction of wrap for your object. In this case, it's vertical. We have basic setup, which I'll be using in a minute if you don't actually have any CAD data, or if you do have the CAD data and you're in conversation with the shrink manufacturer, or you are the shrink manufacturer, you'll have this advanced setup, which has some industry terminology in here and values that you can add: cut length detail, lay flat, long lap length, short lap length, things like this. Okay, we can also edit the substrates in here and things like this. So I'm going to just come back to my basic setup. So this is how we know it's 100% accurate, this particular tool. So I'm going to put in my cut length, my film length, my offset. Okay, and then my overlap is 3.5 mil, my seam, if you like, which is simulated by this thicker green band. We can move that anywhere you like. So I'm going to start off the simulation. I'm going to stop it, add it to the scene once it's kind of attached itself to my can. I'm going to link this back to Illustrator. Again, I get a 100% scaled document open up in the Illustrator with the 2D color guide of that shrink data on there. I'm just going to place in my artwork file. So just going to grab my can artwork and place that inside here and update that back to iC3D. Okay, so there's my single can. So once I've done that, I can then come in here and just going to switch off the artwork file, and then just going to group this. We have grouping tools like you'd find inside Illustrator, just to make it all as one, to make it easier to move around. We then have duplication tools inside here. It just goes over to Illustrator to calculate some things, and then I'll send the information back here and allow me then to create a 3x2 pack. Okay, so there's my 3x2 pack, 6-pack of cans. I'm then going to drag out my shrink film again. I'm going to add an outer sleeve. So this time I'm going to choose horizontal. I'm going to put in some new details inside here. So my cut length is 238 in this case. My film length is 530. My overlap or seam is 31. And then my seam position, I just need to seam position down at the bottom there. Just drag that to where I need it. And then I can then start my simulation again. Okay, so it takes us kind of 20 seconds to actually shrink this down to print production data. Takes our competitor products hours, if not days, to achieve the same print ready effects. So I'm just going to let that shrink down until it hits the side of the can. It's very accurate. It sits completely flat on the top edge as well as along the side edges here as well. So just give that another 10 seconds or so just to kind of shrink to where I need it on the sides there. So it's almost done. So once I'm happy with that, I'll just stop the simulation. I can then add that to the scene. I can then give that a material. Maybe I've got a predefined material for that. There's my outer shrink. So it's a clearer film. I can link that back to Illustrator again, and I get a second document open up in Illustrator. Just reopen that. So all those documents will open up for me inside Illustrator. And then again, I can apply an artwork file. So I'll just wait for that to open. So I'm going to open my artwork file this time rather than placing it again, and it'll become apparent why I'm doing that in a second. So I'm going to just copy and paste the information across. Okay, and update that back to iC3D. And then we'll see what will happen to that artwork once we place it on here. So as you can see here, it's all distorted on the back. We have plugins in Illustrator to take care of that. This is like a verification tool that your shrink films will come back from the print production house correctly. From a production standpoint, we can go back to the file. We can zoom into the problematic area on the back here, and we can select those text panels, the logo area, and we can add a envelope distort, make it mesh, 10 by 10 mesh. We can then say front view because it's being viewed from one side, and that will use some very clever algorithms to actually accurately predict the level of distortion needed on the 2D artwork. So when I send this back to iC3D, it will correctly undistort on the 3D model. And you can use this as your actual production file once you've calculated that pre-distortion. So once it sends it back, you'll see here it will undistort that in real time, as it has done here, correctly onto the model. And then just to finish off, we would then maybe have another pre-defined camera angle and maybe another predefined lighting rig as well. And then maybe we can see what that looks like as a photographically correct image. So hopefully you guys agree with me. That's a very realistic looking shrink film around the outside of those cans. Okay. So next I'm going to talk to you a little bit about label and material creation. And when I talk about material creation, more about print finishing effects that you'll find on labels and things like that. So I'm going to open up my next file. Which is this whiskey bottle. It's a bit of a theme going here. Okay, so I'm just going to add a label to the outside of the glass bottle. In this case, this bottle is going to be 100 by 100 ml. Just going to move it into position. Don't have to be too accurate for what I'm going to show you guys here. And then just to also show you, we can change materials of any 3D model piece in here on the fly using our material editor. I can make that completely transparent so you can't even see it just by using a couple of sliders very quickly. And then again, I can link that back to Illustrator. I'll just send that information back across. I can then place an artwork file that I already have on here. Okay. And then I can embed that. I have to embed it again. It's got some spot color data that I want to take advantage of on here. So once that comes into my label, it just takes a second just to update that. Okay, so there's my artwork on my label. It's like a white screen print effect. So maybe when I ray trace that, I can see what that looks like as a photographic image again. And then I'm going to show you how we might want to be able to sample the same design in a different print finishing effect. So I'm just going to zoom into this area So you guys can see that a little bit better. At the moment, it's kind of this white screen print effect. I'm going to grab that label. I'm going to come into my layers panel inside here, and I'm going to grab the spot color that's in the Illustrator file. That's supposed to be mirroring a silver foil, but I might want to see actually, what does it look like as a gold foil? So I can quickly come into my metals, and I can look at my gold foil effects, and I can apply that effect very quickly. And again, that goes off back to Illustrator. That will send that information back over to iC3D. And then you'll see here on the ray traced image that it will show me a flat gold foil on my label very quickly. And then I can come in here and maybe take it one step further. As I did earlier, I can add some bump to this. So I can see what it looks like as an embossed gold foil effect. And as I said, this is different to that effect that I showed you earlier. This is the quicker way of doing embossed effects, but it wouldn't hard encode it into the model's mesh. It's just a graphical simulation. So if I do turn this one to the side, you can see there it's got some embossed information. If I do turn it to the side, it doesn't actually protrude out of the object, okay, as before you saw it did do. All right, so you see there it's looking flat on the angles. So just to show you one other tool that we have a label beautification tool inside here, and we can preview those label beautification tools I'm talking about. We've got this option inside here, hide rear facing labels and displacement. At the moment, I've got it switched on because from a marketeer standpoint, I do have an embossed effect on the back of this bottle, but I want to hide it. I don't want to have to create two separate models for two separate use cases. Marketeers don't like seeing back labels or anything through the bottle. So again, if I looked at it from the back side, you can see the displacement inside here, and then you'll see the label through the other side. So if I switch this off, back on, sorry, you'll see the front label will disappear, and I will just see the back side and the displacement or the embossing shield on the back of that bottle. Okay, and then if I look from the front again, I just see the label, and then you'll see the embossed effect will disappear. So very, very good feature for creating kind of beautiful kind of imagery without the need for creating separate model types or models. And that's the same on our export options as well. You can choose that actual item on there. Next, I'm going to show you a multi-form model creation, creating like a takeaway pack of spaghetti bolognese, microwave pack of spaghetti bolognese. I'm just going to do this in the OpenGL viewpoint only to show you how quick it is to build something kind of complex like this. So I'm going to start off in the 2D spinner. So the 2D spinner, as I said earlier, is based on CAD data that, again, you would import, but you can actually, it's got a little mini editor in here. It's like the anchor point tool that you would find inside Illustrator. You can just click around and build a crude bottle shape, or a better one I'm sure you guys could do what I'm doing. Once you get your hands on the tool, you can add curved edges, or obviously if you have the CAD data, you can import it directly inside here. Okay, so I'm going to load in my tray to start with. So once you import it, automatically revolves these items, and they're DXF files that you would export from Illustrator. I'm just going to drag in the tray, and all the, sorry, the actual tray, not the lid. So all it is a 50% cross section you have to draw in Illustrator, which would look exactly identical to what you're seeing on my screen now. Export that as a DXF, a data exchange file, where you import that inside here, and it automatically revolves that within a second. Okay, you can come in here and you can add some thickness to this. Quick way of adding some thickness, and update that and add that to the scene. All right, I can come in here and sample that as whatever material I want. Maybe it's a black plastic gloss material or something that I might have. I can click and drag that on. I can use the 2D spinner again. I can add my content shape, is what I'm going to add on this next piece. So the actual content to mirror the shape again is a couple of anchor points, about 6 or 7 anchor points in there to generate that. Add that to my scene. Add the same material. I'm going to add a label to this particular part, and it'll become apparent why I'm doing that. So I'm going to make this 167 by 167. I'm going to link that back to Illustrator again. And again, that'll open up a 100% scaled document. So rather than just placing vector artwork, I can also place any image file inside here, which I'm going to do now. Okay, which is actually going to mirror my actual content in this case. A little trick just to put some content inside your tray. So now I have the actual spaghetti inside my tray. Okay. Next, I'm going to use the 2D spinner again. I'm going to add a lid to this. So add in my lid, and again, put a thickness to my lid, and update that, and add that to the scene. I'm going to drag that into position using our transform tools. You've got the Y coordinate, which is up and down. Left is the red one. Left and right is X, and back and forth is the blue one to move things, 3D objects around in the 3D space. So I'm going to give that a material. I'm going to give that a different material just because this one will be a better one. Clear white. Okay, so we can see through our tray. And the final thing to do here is to then use our card and fold up template to add our sleeve around the outside of our printed graphics on. So I'm going to just grab my sleeve. Okay. So there's my sleeve there, and generate the model. Okay, and there's my cardon piece. I can see how it's been folded up here with the folding angles. Incrementally change that if I have to. Do whatever I want with that. Add that to my. Then I can add this to my scene. I'm going to make that a thinner material. We have lots of different materials in there. Thicker ones, thinner ones, whatever you want. That is pre-shipped with. You can create your own on the fly as well. Any thickness of board, that kind of thing. So I'm going to add that to the scene. I'm going to rotate it using our rotational tools into position. So very quickly, just rotate that to where I need it, and then move it up into place exactly where I need it over here. Okay, so I probably need to just move my lid down a little touch. So I kind of finished that off. And this one, just move it up a little bit. Okay, so far I've been using Illustrator to render my artwork on here. So we also have other rendering engines within iC3D. We can use Illustrator for the production file. We also have a built-in iC3D PDF editor. And we can also link to Hybrid's pack solution as well, but the PDF editor is great if you don't have Illustrator. So I'm just going to quickly add my artwork in here. And this means we don't need any third-party artwork rendering software to add the actual artwork onto our final models. Okay, so I'm just going to grab in my artwork file, and then I'm just going to nudge that up and then nudge it across into position. Can drag it and move it. We also honor all the layers that come in there, as well as all the color profiles that are embedded in that file as well. And I can just update that back to iC3D. Okay. There's my finished tray. All right, so very quick, very easy to do. Next, I'm going to talk to you about creating an SRP pack, shelf-ready pack. So I'm going to use my cardon fold-up template again, just to show you this. I'm just going to grab my die line of my actual cardon file here. At the moment, this would be a closed box, but I can either just render these lines as non-used, but just for my demo purposes, it will work better for me to remove them. I can remove them. I can come in here and edit any of those lines to make them cuts or folds at any point. I've got a full editing capability inside here to redraw lines. It's limitless what we can do in here. I can split these lines in to verify that my die line can be folded. If it does find any issues, it will flag up and it will say, I can't fold it for this particular reason. It seems to be assigned a cut where it thinks it should be a fold or something along those lines. So I'm just going to generate my model. I'm going to select all my fold lines. I'm going to fold it up to 90 degrees. I'm going to give it a front face of view, the viewpoint I'm going to view it from within the camera in iC3D. I'm going to add that to the scene. Obviously, as I said to you earlier, you could add materials inside there, but If you forget to add it inside there, it doesn't matter because you can come in here and add them at any point that you wish. I have one already inside here, some fluted board. So I'm going to come in here and grab my fluted board and apply that. So I have a white flute edged board. I can then link this back to Illustrator again, and then I get that color guide open up directly inside Illustrator, where I can apply my 2D artworks. Okay, so I'm just going to place, well, I'm going to open up my artwork file and place it just to show you something else. Okay, this is my box artwork. Just going to select both those layers and copy and paste them across. Okay. So I'm going to drop that in there, and I'm just going to line up my actual die line on my artwork. And just to show you that we honor any kind of layering structure in a file, it doesn't have to be on this artwork layer we generate. I've got these two other layers in here. I'm just going to turn off my color guide, and I'm going to link that back to iC3D. Okay, so there's my finished open SRP. Maybe I might want to add inside here a sachet, flexible sachet that I've already created. I don't have to generate it again. I can just add it to the scene at any point. And then I can verify, maybe I need 14 of these. It's also a verification tool to see how many your primary product might fit inside your secondary product as well. So you can verify how many of these primary objects can fit inside there. Okay, so now that's finished. We can add our camera angle as before. So I can choose my camera angle for this particular project. And again, I can choose my lighting for this particular project. And then I can see what that looks like as a ray traced object. Okay, this one will take just an extra minute just to ray trace this because it's got a lot of objects in the scene. And the art of ray tracing, or the method, is to fire millions of points of light at an object in a 3D scene. And it will calculate the interaction between those objects to bounce back to you an actual full photographic image. And that's what's going on in the background here. And there's your final ray traced image popping up now. Okay, and you can see all the flute edging, all the details in there, very realistic looking cardan and some flexible pouch or sachet in there with some creasing. Okay, so along the subjects of pouches, I'm going to show you our custom pouch template, which is a relatively new-ish template. That came out a couple of releases ago. So what that would allow you to do is you need to prepare a file in Illustrator first, which is some minimal work to actually generate a 3D model of any shaped stand-up pouch. And just to show you what it looks like, you would come in here and you would generate your shape. You would use this red RGB color for your seal area and the green RGB color or the green for your fill area. You then export that out from here. As I've been talking, it's the same process to get that DXF file, data exchange CAD file from Illustrator. We export it out. As with most of our templates that rely on the CAD data, we then drag the pouch template into the scene. We import that DXF shape or file that we've just generated. Okay, so we import that in here. We put in our gusset width, whatever that is on our artwork or CAD file. If it's a drink pouch, we can add a spout. We can put it at any diameter, and we can position it wherever we want and move it around. I'm going to place it right about here. Once you've done that minimal work, you hit the apply button, and iC3D will then generate the model for you on the fly and give you a few further options to add into that custom shaped pouch. You can change the artwork layout, as you can see on that thumbnail above, whatever that is in your production process. You can add in peg holes and things like that and move them into any position. You can change the fill amount very quickly, how much liquid's inside there. And then you can add that to the scene once you're finished. So once I've done that, I can come in here, and again, I can add any material that I've pre-created or it's pre-shipped with the product. As I said, there's about 200 pre-shipped materials. I'm going to grab my gloss pouch here. Okay, it's got a little bit of creasing in there, has texturing and things like this. I'm also going to come into my model library. Maybe I've got a cap. We also ship with different caps you can use. So I'm going to add a cap into my scene. And then to finish this guy off, I'm going to come in here and add an artwork to this. Okay, so I'm just going to open my artwork file for this one. Going to select everything inside here and just copy that across to my new generated file by iC3D, position that where I need it at the top here, switch off my color guide, update that back and see what that might look like as a final kind of file, and then see what this looks like as a photographically correct image. So I'm just going to add in a different lighting and then see what that might look like, how realistic my flexible pouch looks. Okay, so you can see all the creasing, crumples and dents on there. And maybe under a different lighting condition, might look even more realistic. Okay, so that's our flexibles. Most of our flexible bag templates work in a slightly different way. They have all these options you can add in there, but the flexible pouch is the custom pouch is the one that you can generate any shape with. Okay, the others are just the standard bag types based on production data. So a couple of more subject points just to look at. Going to look at our point editor. We have that niche shape modeling capability where you stack the shapes on top, but we're no different to any other 3D application where we do have a wireframe editor. So I'm going to create a Ferrero Rocher suite. I'm going to do this with a couple of primitives and the point editor. So the primitives are like lumps of clay, like cuboids, spheres, cylindricals, planes, pyramids, carton shapes, torus rings, hollow rings, and also rounded rectangles. So I'm going to use a sphere to simulate the suite that's going inside my suite wrapper, if you like. So just going to generate it as size. The divisions are the amount of points across each of those value points in my wireframe. I'm going to add a second primitive, which is going to be a plane. Okay, so there's my plane. I just need to make that a little bit bigger, actually. So just going to add my plane. Okay. So there's my plane, which is going to simulate my suite wrapper. And I'm going to grab both and open that up in the point editor. And I'm going to select my plane. And I'm going to add physics to that. We have a physics engine built inside here. So I'm going to add physics to that plane or wrapper piece. And I'm literally going to use that now to wrap this around the suite. Okay, so as I drag it, it collides with the suite or the ball, if you like, and it wraps itself around there. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Just going to put it into wireframe mode so we can see that a little bit better. I'm just going to grab some of these points down at the bottom. I'm just going to tuck this guy up underneath this side, the same on this side. Okay, so I'm physically, like I would be doing in reality, just wrapping my wrapper around the suite. So I'm going to ignore those back faces, look at it from the front, the right side, just to tuck in the sides. Okay, so we can keep tucking and screwing the foil up. Okay, so that looks good. So I'm going to add that to my scene. I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to come into my material library. I've got my Ferrero wrapper material that I'm going to use and apply that. And then obviously I'm not going to show you the shape modeler again, but I've already generated like a cupcake casing that goes around my suite wrapper, or sits underneath it if you like. Okay, so it's just two shapes, two cog shapes like I showed you earlier, stacked on top of each other. And then to kind of finish this off, I'm going to add my label on here. So I'm just going to add in my Ferrero Rocher suite label that goes on top. Okay, so I'll open that up in Illustrator for me. And that will perform a die cut operation out of that label for me and automatically place it. Okay, there we go. And then we can come in here and just grab my lighting, my Ferrero lighting, and then see what that looks like as a photographically correct image and how realistic that may look. Okay, so you can see all the creasing, crumpling, and dents. That actual feature was designed for all our flexible bags in mind, to make them look less rigid and to add creasing, crumples and dents to your actual flexible bags, as well as generating things like these sweet wrappers. Okay, so hopefully you agree that foil looks nice and realistic. One more subject point before I kind of start talking about some new things that are coming. Our interactive light map editor. So I just want to show you guys how that works, how you can correctly light something very quickly. So I've got this Pantene shampoo bottle that I'm just opening. So it just takes a couple of seconds to open that. So there's our product. It's not been too badly lit, but it could be done better. I'm going to show you how you generate kind of a typical agency pack shot on the fly very quickly. So I'm literally going to can all the lighting in here. And the reason why it's black is because it is, as you see here, it's a completely dark room, no lights getting inside there. Okay, so this is our interactive light map editor. I can start adding some lights back in, and then the product starts to come alive. I can add it in as a circular or rectangular shaped light. I can physically come in here and change the angle on the slider, the width for that light. So I'm going to make this one about 45. Okay, I can drag it into any position, or I can use some sliders to move it around. So instantly, as soon as I move it, you'll see the renderer will come into place. You see the highlight hitting the front of that bottle there. I'm going to make that more of a prominent light. Okay, so more intense light. Can change that with the opacity there, so it's brighter highlight hits in the front. I can also come in here and duplicate a light at any point. Okay, so I can add a second light. And there's this misconception, lots of people come in and add lots of lights like you saw on that first kind of image that I put up of this actual shampoo bottle. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to my first light there, and I'm just going to move this one into position as well, which I should have done really before I duplicated it. It would have saved me about 10 seconds of time there, but either way, we can position our second light on the opposite side to give a second highlight down the front. And then maybe I want to add like a third ambient light in here. So I'm going to use my background to make that possible. So my background color, I'm going to use like a gradiated vertical gradation, just a gray to black. Okay, and you'll see it's kind of enhanced the whole image. And I'm just going to move my lighting rig, holding down my S key on the OpenGL point, and just move those highlights to exactly where I want them to give me a nice, really nice pack shot with those two highlights at the front. Okay, so just remember, if you're ever using our tool, that you don't need to add huge lights in there. A couple of smaller lights will nicely light a product. You can see these nice shadows either side. All right. And then once you've kind of finished designing in iC3D, we have various different export options. So I'm just going to explain this before I show you what's coming soon. So I open up my last kind of file in this respect, and then I've got a couple of more short demos just to show you on the new features that are coming. I've got 3 little features to share with you. So I'm just going to open up this Marc Jacobs Daisy bottle. And again, just to explain, a very complex looking model. All those flowers were built using that shape modeler tool. Everything you see there has been built. So the export options in iC3D are higher res imagery. So whatever you want to export that out, any size, any resolution, either as photographically correct, like the image in the center as ray traced, or standard as OpenGL, we can also do as well if you wanted. We also export to dimension, PDF report for annotation purposes. We also export out to third-party industry standard 3D model formats. Collada is one. You can take it into another 3D application if you wish. STL is used for putting through 3D printer rips and also for sharing between 3D applications. Augment reality, we support that. It's an app you can download on your handheld device. It only takes in the OpenGL viewpoint, and then it will merge the model with wherever you point your camera or your device. Similarly to what we do with our dynamic backgrounds, but with our dynamic backgrounds piece, we can fully ray trace the actual object in there as well as the background image that you've taken with your iPhone or something. 3D PDFs, which are old limited Adobe technology that we still do support. U3D to embed those 3D PDFs into other document types. OBJ is another industry standard third-party 3D file format for sharing 3D files. And we can also directly print to 3D printers, as I briefly mentioned earlier, via VRML format. Okay, and then the final export option we have is iC3D OBSYS. So iC3D OBSYS is a password-controlled username and password-controlled account online that allows you to export your 3D model and a ray trace version of that 3D model, a photographic quality model in the cloud that you can interact with. And I'll just show you what that looks like. You can log into your account online. So I'm about to do here. And then all your 3D models are there online. You can view them directly, as I'm going to do here, or you can share them. That will embed a URL link into your email, and you can send that to colleagues or customers. And all they do is click on that link at the other end, and it will play on any desktop device like I'm going to do now, or any handheld device using your finger like a smartphone or a tablet. So I'm going to view that. It will launch the session on any browser, as I said, on any device. No special applications needed. And it will just load up. I can view the photographic model in the cloud by moving it around with my mouse here. I can zoom in, zoom out to get at the content areas or important areas I might have to kind of proofread or something. And if there's any animations bedding in here, as there is here, you can see all the metallic inks on the front, as showing you what we can achieve with materials, and then the high varnish gloss on the back of that label as it's being peeled open from that can. We can also generate things with our carton fold up, like Tetra cartons and all sorts of things that we can build in here. So I'm just going to share this Tetra carton with you. And I just want to show you, so a very complex folded carton model with a cap placed on it. And then just to show you some other things that are very niche to iC3D, we are the only company in the world that can do ray traced holographic effects. And I'll just show you an end result. And again, this has all been generated directly in the tool. So if you have an interest in those effects, we can show you a demo at some point. But it shows you the photographic quality imagery of that holographic effect as it kind of goes through the lighting there. Okay, and we can also do Fresnel lenses like on this Ciroc box, vodka box that you'll find in most supermarkets on the shelving these days. Okay, so it's this kind of effect here that you'll see as it zooms in. It's basically an engrave or a lens placed on a board that gives it a 3D effect, and we can generate those in a 3D world as well.
So the animations, I'm going to interrupt you for the first time during the whole cafe. The animations you have in the, like for opening the label, is that stuff that specifically works for labels and for like opening a cardboard box, or can you move objects towards each other, away from each other and stuff like that as well?
So here is one that will probably answer that question. So we can animate movement, rotation, and as you said, the label was built out of a piece of carton that has it's like a curved folded panel. So it's kind of a way of getting around that to animate it opening. So, and this one is just lifting something up, spinning it around and moving it. So that would answer your question there. So we can move things and open things, whatever you want to do really. Okay, and unpill whatever. All right. This one also shows that we can have the primary product inside with a window. I'll show you this last one. It's quite nice. And then I will show you some new features that are coming, as I said, in about 3 weeks or so. So like with this pork fillet inside, you can see the actual product inside there as you move it around, the creasing on the bag, very realistic. Okay. So it's limitless what we can do and what we can achieve. And then I'm just going to go through some new features with you guys. Just keep you for another 10 minutes or so. And then any questions you may have following that. So I'm going to open up a box. And the first new feature I'm going to show you, just open this box up, is our cellophane wrap template. Okay, so that means that we can very quickly generate a cellophane wrap around anything. I mean, first thing that comes to mind are like toilet rolls. In this case, I'm going to place it around the cigarette pack. So any box that you'd see in the supermarket that has that cellophane wrap around it to seal it, we can select like this, and then we can come in here and we have this cellophane wrap, which you can see is actually depicted with these toilet rolls inside here. So I'm going to select the box. I'm going to drag the template out into the scene to show you how this may work. It takes a second to open up the template for it to calculate. Plus I'm screen sharing, so it eats a lot of memory away, makes things a little bit slower. So inside here, you'd put in your artwork height in this case, which is going to be 120 mil. I can see the seam on the back. I can say, well, where's it overlapping? I want it to overlap over the left side, sorry. I can change that seam position if I wish to move it anywhere I want. It can be anywhere, but I'm just going to position it at 0. Here at the top, the fold angles, you can see it's set to 30 at the moment. I'm going to make them pretty much square just to cover my whole box. Okay, so you can change the actual fold angles inside there. You can say whether the folds are going on top or underneath, whichever way you want to place it, and the distance between the actual folds, 0.
So packaging like that sometimes has this seal string that you can use to pull it open.
Yeah,
is
like
that something
this.
that you also?
Not in that orientation, but you can see, yeah, this side, you can position that anywhere in any thickness.
Yeah.
Move that around. Okay, so where has he gone? Down the side there. Okay. So whichever way you want to have that, or any size. All right. So then I can, once I've done that, I would add it to my scene. I can then link this back to Illustrator. Again, you get a 100% scale document based on those values I put in there. I can place my artwork file on here. Okay, so there's my cellophane art for obvious reasons. And then I can update that back to iC3D. Takes a second to update that. Obviously, I could then apply an opaque white effect if I wish to make that show up correctly, which I will do, because when I ray trace that, it won't show correctly, because obviously iC3D is also used to mimic that kind of production piece as well. So you can come in here and grab that spot color, and I can say, well, actually it's a white effect. And then I'm going to just grab our plastic, because if I was to ray trace it as it was, it would just look very kind of transparent, I suppose is a better choice of words. So matte white effect. So we'll let that go off to Illustrator and bounce back. So it's just updating that for me now. So just give that a second. It tells you there it's just generating at the bottom. So then when I ray trace this now, then obviously you can see how that should look in reality. Okay, hopefully you agree it's a very realistic looking pack with a plastic film all around the outside. All right. I'll move that, I can move it up a little bit, get a better viewpoint maybe on it. So very realistic looking cellophane wrapping. So that's coming, as I said, in the next couple of weeks. So the next kind of template I want to share with you guys is our blister packs. This is quite a cool little template, this one here, depicted by kind of this tablet pack, if you like. So I'm going to open up my next file. So here's my blister pack of batteries. So just to explain how you would start off building this. So as you can see here, I'll just switch this. It's just a piece of carton. You always have to have a backboard. So a cut out piece of carton with your product pretty much attached to that backboard. Okay, in this case, it's my batteries. I select both of those objects. I then drag out the blister pack template. It just takes a second for it again to think about the data and open that template for me. So there's my blister template. I can come in here and start with, I'm going to say add a rectangle piece of plastic that I'm going to form my blister out of. So that's a starting point. Or you can add in here a DXF file of a shape that is specified, maybe in production, but I'm just going to show you two methods. So I can show you this one. So I'm just going to position that where I want it, X and Y. So 7.5 mil that way. I want it 34 mil down from the top. I also then want to change the width of this bit of plastic that I'm going to use to form my blister out of, 75 mil across, and then the height of that is going to be 65 mil. Okay, so you now see it sitting, looking kind of correct position. So once I've done that, what I do is just click Form Blister, and then, hey presto, it will create your blister pack around your object for you based on those details. Just sorry if I didn't mention the spacing detail. Was let me just do that again. Was basically the distance that it's kind of, or the spacing between the item and the actual formed blister. Okay, so if I want
all you need to have that work is an object and a piece of cardboard.
Exactly. And then obviously that would be like the ones where they stick the bit of plastic on the front of the card. We can also do the fully encapsulated version of that. So for the same thing, obviously it probably wouldn't be batteries, but just saves me opening up another file. I'm going to add a shape this time, which would be a DXF file. So let me just open up my DXF file, which is this guy here. Okay, so you can see it's basically the same size as the board underneath. And then I can say, well, I want to add a skirt around it, and it'll automatically encapsulate it for you. Okay. And then you can put in the skirt height, the edges, if you want a heat seal in here. Sorry, it's just my resolution on my screen, but just change that quickly. You can change the stud heights there around the heat seal, whatever. If you saw that, just change slightly there. The stud width, maybe it's not so wide. You've got a few more going around there, the radius corners, things like this. Once you've decided all that, you can form your blister again. And then automatically it will form it around the object. Okay, and there's your encapsulated thing. So it might be like a light switch or something in there, or I don't know, some childcare objects or whatever is going inside that encapsulated blister pack. All right, so once you've done that, you can just add that to your scene, and obviously you can then ray trace that and see what that might look like. As a ray traced example. So hopefully agree again. Nice realistic looking bit of packaging. That's coming again at the end of the month, or in the last quarter of the year at some point, I should say. So hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks, maybe something like this, if not sooner. And the last one we've got coming out is our tie top bag template, which is amazing template, great bit of technology. Tie top bags can be anything from bread bags to, I don't know, chocolates that are wrapped inside these things or whatever. You can see it's depicted by a bread bag there. I'm just going to open up my file that I have. In this case, I've got some hot dog buns already created. So you'd grab the item here, select it, okay, and then you drag the tie top bag template into the scene. And then you can put in some details inside here. So up the top here, I need to put in my artwork width. And again, you would get this off your color from your print production supplier, or if you are the manufacturer, then you'd have these details. Put in my height, which that should be as it is, 88.14 on my gusset. My bag is going to run from left to right, my artwork direction, and my bag type, I want to leave it as square. Obviously, I can change the direction. I can change the different kind of bag types inside there as well. Once I've decided on that bit, I just insert the object into my bag. Now, just bear with me. This will be quicker on your own desktops. As I said, I am screen sharing, so my memory is going to run a little bit slower. If you've got a high-end graphics card, then you'll see this happen a lot quicker. But what it's effectively going to do, it only takes like about 30 seconds anyway. You can see what it's doing. It's sliding the bag on around the object. And once it collides, it will keep processing until it settles effectively. Okay, so you'll see that happen when it hits the seam. In a minute, it will start to sag and collapse around the bread rolls that are inside there, the hot dog buns. Okay. So very cool bit of technology, simulating similarly to our shrink tools in that simulation method. Okay, so we just let it finish. It's done that. Next thing that we can add is a crimp or fastener to our bag. So kind of simulates where the area is going to go or where it will sit. I'm going to say I want it to be at that location, so 24. I'm going to say I want it to be, we can either have a strip or a grip tag. And then all I need to do is then apply fastener. Okay, so again, just bear with me. It'll look like it's going to take forever, but it will speed up as it kind of goes through that simulation process. So it just takes about a minute just to generate kind of screwing the bag up to put the fastener in. I can switch it up the other way to show you the way it should be done. It has to be done upside down for this technology to work, but obviously it's not an issue because we can rotate these things while we're watching it, or again, once we add it to the scene. So you see now it's starting to form around my bag. I'll just take about another minute just to kind of generate if there's any questions while that's happening. But I just wanted to share this technology with you. It's what's coming in a few weeks.
Chat has been fairly silent, so I'm sure your explanations have been great so far.
Hope so. Have I wowed the audience, maybe? We'll see. So yeah, we'll just wait for that to kind of finish working its magic. As you can see, it's forming around the bag. And again, if you've got a higher end graphics card or you're not screen sharing and got lots of applications open, as I have, then this will be a lot quicker process. I mean, it seems longer because we're just watching it, right? So it's actually only going to take like a minute or two at most. So
I've noticed the same thing last time that I hosted an iC3D Café. When you're screen sharing on Zoom, recording that as well, and ray tracing, for example, the computer just lifts off.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just using a laptop as well. If you're using a strong desktop or a server to do the rendering, it'll all be a bit more stable.
Exactly. You can see it's speeding right up now for where it was when it was outside here somewhere. It's almost complete. So probably another 10 seconds and it should be done. So it creases and grabs the bag and scrunches it up as it would do in reality. And then it will add in our tag. So now I can apply that fastener, which is this little tag here as you find around these bread bags, or I could say I want it to be the strip one, whichever type I want to kind of add in there. And then apply the strip. And then I can add that to the scene. And then again, we've got, once it's in the scene, we can come in here and add, link it back to Illustrator. We get 100% scale color guide, again, based on the dimensions that we put in there. And I can just come in here and place my final artwork file of the day. And then we can open the floor up to any kind of questions anyone does have, if they've thought of any since we've last gave them the opportunity. So we just set that back to iC3D. And then you can see the finished bag with the graphics on it. And then we can obviously, we can ray trace this as well. Okay, so I can come in here and I can add in my final material, which is my hot dog bag material. And then I can ray trace this one to see how realistic that may look. All right. So realistic looking bag, bread bags, bun bags, whatever you want to put inside those things. All right. So that's what I have to show you guys for today. I'll open the floor up to any questions anyone does have, or if they do want to maybe get in touch with 4Ps guys to book a more bespoke demonstration of your own artworks or models or something like this, we can arrange that as well.
Yeah, I think it was a very complete demo. You were able to show pretty much all of the templates, and that's a lot of information. So yeah, so we've gone a little bit over time. That's not really a problem. Still, I haven't seen anyone go into chat, so I think we're fine. If people have questions, if people are rewatching this on YouTube and you feel like, oh, this is interesting, I want to see more, I want to ask some questions about details, you can always get into contact with us and we'll try to help you out as good as possible. I'd like to remind everybody again that there is a follow-up on this, a next iC3D Café in 2 weeks about string sleeve technology specifically, and another one 2 weeks later than that. So don't forget to register for those. And then, Joel, I'd like to thank you for the demonstration you've given today. Yeah, and we'll see you in 2 weeks as well.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. Yeah, thank you for all your patience and for tuning in. Take care.
Okay, everybody, we're going to end it here then. See you next time. And thank you for showing up.